Hey there everybody, it's Alex here from RPGsite.net, here today with Quantum Break, which, let's get it out of the way, is not an RPG. However, it's doing some really interesting stuff with the way it delivers its story, which made us think that it might be actually a little bit interesting to RPG fans, and that's something we do. We cover stuff that sometimes isn't of the genre but might be of interest. And the things they're doing with a TV show and a game at the same time, and the way the choice plays into the game, is quite interesting, and it's the kind of thing where it'll be interesting to see if in the future this actually seeps back into the RPG genre. So here we are. I'm unscripted. I'm just going to talk about it. I've been playing the game for a little while now, and it's interesting. So if you don't know, Quantum Break is the actual gameplay part. It's a third-person shooter, as Remedy are known for, and if you don't know Remedy, those are the guys who were behind the original Max Payne games way back on the PS2, you know, that sort of era, although they were PC games first, of course, and then later on they were responsible for Alan Wake. So this is an Xbox exclusive again, much as Alan Wake was, also on PC, but only through Microsoft's Windows Store on Windows 10 and all that. And it's a third-person action game. Unlike Alan Wake, which had its sort of light and torch mechanics, the big twist on the combat here kind of goes back to what they did with Max Payne, in that it's all about time. It's a game heavy on time travel, and your character sort of has time-based superpowers, so you can freeze enemies, and you can blast them with time, and you can do quick dashes to get away from people, and all that sort of stuff. But it's not bullet time, it's sort of different abilities that sometimes have similar effects to bullet time, and there's multiple different abilities you have. As far as that side of stuff goes, just so you know, I think it's a pretty great, pretty competent third-person shooter. It feels good. Remedy know how to make these games well. It's a little bit swimmy, but I feel like that's deliberate because they make a point of sort of saying the main character you're playing as isn't a soldier. He's not an experienced fighter. He is just a kind of a normal guy who maybe has fired a few guns in his life, but has never really fought before. So the aiming and stuff is a bit swimmy, but the time mechanics make up for it. And it's fun. And then that's backed up with the influence of Uncharted is definitely felt in this, I feel, in that in between combat encounters there's a lot of stuff around getting around the world, where you're moving stuff and you're using your time abilities to rewind stuff so you can recreate a platform that wasn't there before, and then you're jumping around and climbing, which feels a lot like the downtime that you get in between combat encounters in Uncharted. So that's that, but let's talk about this story stuff.
What are you doing?
So Remedy really likes to do big story. Obviously Max Payne, the gimmick there was that it was all you know, like a film noir comic sort of thing. Alan Wake, obviously he was an author, and sort of they did a lot of stuff with finding pages of the book that Wake was writing, and it turned out, you know, the book and the stuff that was happening to him in real life were all sort of interconnected in interesting ways. Here, this is narrated by Jack Joyce, the main character, throughout, which is interesting. It's sort of a, you know, narrated from a point in the future. He's talking about what's already happened to him. But the twist is that, as I said earlier, there is a TV show included with the game. Now, to get this out of the way at the top, when I say included with the game, for some reason, and I'm not quite sure why, because it's obviously all finished, it's not on the disc. So you're actually required to either download these episodes or stream them. And if you're not interested in this sort of thing, it is also worth saying it is optional. But then in between acts where you play as the main character, you sort of go into this live action TV show, which looks about the same as, it doesn't look filmic, it doesn't look like an expensive Hollywood production, it looks like your average TV production. You know, your average decent budget TV production. So, you know, it's not the most impressive thing, but I think it looks nice. There are some bits that are quite cheesy. There's sort of standard issue guards, and in the game they sort of look fine, and then when you convert that costume to live action it looks a bit silly, but okay. But yeah, the interesting thing is the game has throughout what they call junctions. These are vastly simplified from the sort of choice we get in stuff like Mass Effect or Dragon Age or The Witcher. But what a junction is it's a place where the story can split off in one of two directions. And what I find most interesting is the junctions actually impact the game, the actual in-game stuff, and the TV show. And they're often pretty big choices. And then from there, actually, things that you do in the game world, things that you find, might actually get you extra scenes in the TV show. So if you find something, you might then see a scene in the TV show that will shed further light on that and that sort of thing. Or at least, you know, that's how the menus lead me to believe, and I've been through a few of these junction points now, and I think it's pretty interesting. It's really cool to see that, and it's also really cool to, it has to be said, see the same character rendered in the game, and then the exact same actor, because it's performance capture, so it's the face and the voice, in the game. And then doubly interesting is you get occasions, which you'll see in the background of this video, you get occasions where you'll see a scene from one perspective, from one character's perspective in the TV show, and something weird will happen and you won't quite be able to piece together what happened. And then you'll see that exact same scene in the game, and you might realise that it was you, the main character, in the game segment, using his time powers that caused something weird to happen in the show. So that's pretty interesting. I do think the TV show thing is, it's not executed the best here. You can tell that this game sort of is a remnant of when Microsoft had big plans around doing their own TV programming for the Xbox One. But, at the same time, I think it's executed pretty well, and it's something that I would quite like to, as somebody who's really into story in games. That's part of, you know, not all RPGs are story-driven, of course, but the story-driven nature is what attracts me to a lot of RPGs. Not all, but a lot. And this is the kind of thing where I think I'd love to see it tried by some people in some genres. I could definitely see BioWare doing something like this, for instance, with a Mass Effect game or a Dragon Age game. And so that's why I thought I'd quickly come on here and talk about it, even though it isn't an RPG. It's interesting, and it seems like Remedy are the right people to do it. They have a taste for this cheesy writing, and that maybe doesn't reflect as well on the live action stuff. You know, there's a lot of people saying, time is broken, time is cracked, the end of time is coming, and that's certainly not the greatest, but it also leans into the cheese. It seems aware of it. The actors seem to be, largely at least, aware of it. And the choices seem to, you know, they're very big. You know, I much prefer the choices in games when they're more granular and they're more moral conundrums. Whereas here, the few times it's given me the choices, because the TV show does sort of focus on the bad guys, and they're up to no good, of course, and the TV show and the choices around the show focus on that. So the choices do sort of boil down to, how evil do you want to be? Do you want to kill people, or do you want to manipulate people, for instance? That's the one you'll see here. The one I'm going to show in the background will be the very first junction point of the game. So you don't, you know, get any spoilers if you do plan to go and play it. So yeah, it's an interesting little thing. I think it's perhaps, unless you're really into third-person shooters, it's perhaps not a game any RPG fan wants to run out and buy immediately. But it's the kind of thing where if it hits Xbox Games for Gold, or it gets a nice, good sale price, it's a good quality shooter in the first place. But I think the story stuff is really interesting for anybody who's really into story-heavy video games to experience and try out. So yeah, that's Quantum Break. That's my thoughts on it from the perspective of an RPG fan. From the perspective of a shooter fan, as I say, it's a good little thing. But it might be worth you looking into. I think it's a cool little thing, and if you're into the idea of video games as a storytelling medium and where they go next, this is an interesting wrinkle, an interesting detour. I don't think it's going to become the next big thing. I don't think everybody's going to be doing it, but I would like to see more people at least try to make this sort of thing work. So yeah, that's that. Stick with us on this channel or on rpgsite.net for more about RPGs and the games and video game culture things around RPGs that we think fans of RPGs will enjoy. And we'll see you next time. Thanks everybody. Bye.